All right, thank you so much for joining. Um, it's nice to have you here. Today is the 10th day of May 2026. You will not believe how grateful I am that you're here. All right. Um, I'll give you a few seconds to share the video to as many people as possible. Share it, let them also hear what you're hearing and see what you are seeing. All right. Just you're going to have 30 seconds for that, so share it. And also, if you're already here, you know like the video to help the YouTube algorithm. That is going to be very much appreciated. All right, in case you're seeing me for the first time, right, I am Dozie Chuks. In the tech space, I'm called Dev Chuks, and I'm a software engineer basically. But I like life. I also like to talk about, perspective of life, especially from the angle of a believer. All right. So if you're joining for the first time, that's what I'm about, basically. All right. I talk about tech, but also I like to talk about basic principles of life, especially from the perspective of a believer. And one thing about me is I like to share information to the best of my knowledge in a way that doesn't mislead people. So if I'm not too sure, you most likely not hear it from me. All right. Yes. Today we're talking about a topic that you probably already saw on the flyer, but it's a topic that I feel is important to the life of every person on earth, believer or not. It's a topic that I think is very important to every person on earth. And that topic is sequence, good things, bad time. Now, I'm going to give you a very relatable example for us to start with. You know, let's look at this. If someone decides to cook jollof rice today, there are different ways of doing that, right? And if you decide to, let's say, fry your meat first, in fact, let's go for something a little bit deeper. Let's go for beans. So you decide that you want to cook beans now. And so you just take the beans, put in the water, start boiling it, spice it up and everything. And then later on, you put in the meat or the protein, whatever it is that you're going to eat that beans with, right? But then after cooking the beans, you now decide to pick out the chaff from the beans. Now, this is what you need to understand. Picking out the chaff from the beans is a valid step in cooking beans. Parboiling the beans is a valid step in cooking beans. Spicing it is a valid step. Cooking your protein is a valid step. But if you don't follow a reasonable sequence in order to make that beans, only God knows what you are going to make at the end of the day. And so even if all the steps you have followed, like I described, are valid steps in making the food beans, it has to be followed in a particular order for it to become the beans that you can eat. Should I say it again for those at the back? All right, I don't think I need to say it again. You can just take the video a little bit. All right, so good things, bad time. That's the major focus of this video. And remember, the topic is sequence. Good things, bad time. Now, one of the hardest truths in life is realizing that something can be good and still damage you because it arrived at the wrong time. You need to understand that not everything that causes you problem is bad. Some of them are good, but they just happened at the wrong season. They just happened at the wrong time of your life. For instance, having a child of your own is a good thing. But if it happens at the wrong time of your life, maybe out of wedlock or premarital sex or anything like that, and maybe you're still in secondary school and all that, it can immediately change the course of your life. So although getting pregnant and having a baby is a good thing, in fact, the Bible describes it as a gift from God. If it comes at the wrong time, then it becomes a problem. I need you to understand this foundation I'm laying now, because this is the foundation we're going to use to run on the rest of the conversation. All right? This is the foundation that we're going to use to run on the rest of the conversation. Sequence is order, sequence is timing, sequence is progression, and sequence is divine arrangement. It has to do with order, a particular set of steps, just like the beans explanation. Timing, just like the pregnancy explanation. Progression, you go from one stage to the other, It's like going from GS1 to, it's like going from GS1 to GS2. Things are getting harder, but you have already been built for that stage. All right? Divine arrangement. All right? So in life, I need you to understand that sequence matters a lot. It matters a lot. It's not something that is optional, right? Because everything can seem to be going well until it's not. So sequence matters a lot. It matters a whole lot. Whether you want to accept it or not, it's very important that you understand that sequence matters a lot. Now let's look at something else. You don't have, like, for instance, you don't harvest before planting. There's no way. If you're harvesting without planting, you're most likely stealing somebody's plant. Right? And obviously, when you want to build a house, you don't start from the roof and start coming down. It has to start from the foundation. You can't be doing the roof before the foundation. Then, crowning a king without preparation. It's very good that I came to this point now, because I'm going to give you 6 points, and I'll end this podcast. I'm going to give you 6 points, and we're going to end this podcast. Number one, the first point I'm going to give you is that good things can become dangerous. And for this, I'm going to give you a very good comparison between Saul and David. But before that, take note of this. A thing can be good and still become destructive because of timing. I think I've mentioned that already, but it's just important that you get it. Now, let's look at David and Saul. And if you understand the explanation I'm going to give between David and Saul, 90% of my job, let me say like 60% of my job is done in as far as this podcast is concerned. Now look at David, look at Saul. David and Saul had one thing in common. None of them wanted to be kings. None of them. Saul never woke up one day and said, the way this kingdom is going, I think I'm going to be a king. That didn't happen. David also, he never really, he never really thought about that. Now look at both of them. In the era where both of them found themselves, Israel was a nation that was always having battles. And so Saul was just taking care of donkeys, nothing really that has to do with defending or protecting. Although Saul was a good guy, because if you have read the Bible about how he became king, it was that he had to go the extra mile to go and look for his a donkey. He had to go like an extra mile to go and look for a donkey. You know, that's how Saul became king. David, on the other hand, was somebody who had been a shepherd for a long time, taking care of sheep in the wilderness, where wild animals kept attacking them, and each time he would defend and bring them out of the whole problem, killing lions and bears and all of that. Now, although all of that looks irrelevant, you need to understand that the reason David was going through all those things he was going was still through divine orchestration. Whether you like it or not, God has already decided by what means Israel was going to attack the Philistines. It was by killing their warrior, Goliath. And God had already decided, if we all agree that God knows the end from the beginning, it means that he had already decided that Goliath was going to die with a stone. And studies have now shown that David killing Goliath wasn't necessarily a miracle, but it was preparation. I mean, there are videos I've started seeing of somebody. There's this guy, he's a sling, he's into sling weaponry. And so he even puts apple and he swings it and it will break through wood. It will disfigure metal. And so when David was doing all those things in the bush, killing lions and bear, he did not understand that he was in training. He didn't know. And if you're fighting somebody like Goliath, you cannot make mistake. You cannot make mistake. You can't. All right? And so you see that Saul was handed the kingdom, like he was handed over to the people as the king of Israel, even without undergoing much difficulties in life or any form of training that instilled the sense of responsibility, the sense of leadership in him. David, on the other hand, had been taking care of sheep, each time coming back with the sheep complete. That's discipline, reliability. It takes a lot of commitment and character building when you are in that kind of environment. And so Saul kept on making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, because he probably was experiencing some of those things for the first time. But David, who had already been fighting before he became king, battle was not a new thing to him. Listening to the prophet was not a new thing to David, because David had been through the process of, to be a shepherd, you don't really understand. One day I'm going to talk about how difficult it is to be a shepherd. I was watching one guy, he was streaming in the night. He's a shepherd in one of these Middle Eastern countries. And he was sleeping. He just left the camera on, but he was sleeping. And next thing, the sheep started running. And the guy got into panic mode. Imagine waking up into panic. And it was that an animal attacked. Leadership. Another time, I was watching it, and the guy wanted to go to bed. So what he did was that he brought a particular sheep close to himself, and made that sheep stay just beside him. And because that sheep was right beside him, all other sheep did not move away from there, because the sheep also had sheep. If you know how sheep behave, they have this mentality of following a particular sheep. So if one sheep starts crossing the road, it doesn't matter what is on the road, all of them will join and cross that road. It does not matter the danger that is there. And so in a herd of sheep, to control them, you have to look for the sheep that all the sheep are looking up to. And so all he did was to take that particular sheep, put it by his side, and sleep. All of them stayed in that area without going away, and they all slept there. David had experienced things like this. And so being in leadership was not a problem for him. It wasn't new. It wasn't new. Handling problems wasn't new. And aside the area of seeing and all of that, you can now see in terms of sequence, in terms of process, why David turned out to be a better king than Saul. And different areas this thing manifests in today's world is people having money without discipline, right? Influence without character, relationship without maturity, exposure before preparation. I wonder why I'm laughing at that relationship part. And so God anointed David early. And so even if David was the king by anointing, he wasn't the king for so many years later. Like a lot of years passed and he wasn't still sitting on the throne. So even after he was anointed, he still kept on going through his training process where he had to run, where he had to go and disguise and join the army of the Philistines. David basically had survival instincts because of the things he has been through. All right. The next part I'm going to talk about is that process is not punishment. That is one mistake people keep making today. They think that everything, if God has said this is going to be smooth, if this is going to happen, then it should be smooth. Like, why is it hard? Why do I have to now stress myself again? Why do I have to stress myself again? Now, let's look at somebody like Joseph. Many people think denial means, delay means denial. And it does not necessarily, if even if God has assured you that something is going to happen, it doesn't mean it's just going to come to you like that. Not everybody gets to be king from their house like David, where the priest to come and look for you and anoint you king. Not everybody has it that way. And you can see that even David that had it that way, he had to keep running for his life until he became the king. Literally, he had to keep running. Process is not punishment. Now, the reason I say this is because it's easy to get frustrated when you're going through the process. If you're not convinced as to what the result is going to be, it's easy to be frustrated during the process stage. Now let's look at Joseph. Joseph was going to be the deliverer of Israel in Egypt. And one would have thought that he was just going to apply for visa, get his PRO, live there for 3 years, and then become a citizen of Egypt, and then somehow contest for election, but God had other plans. He had to specifically pass through the things he passed through in order to get to where he got to. Now, I heard someone say that in a different sermon, that all the things that Joseph went through had nothing to do with him becoming the prime minister. Somehow I agree and somehow I don't. Because if you think about it, the reason why Joseph was able to show his brother's compassion was because he himself, by the experience he had in Egypt, from Potiphar's wife to slavery to prison, there's no way you will not understand the need for compassion. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way you will not understand the need for compassion. And so I feel like, and I've said it before, that the prison, the slavery, Potiphar's house, all boil down to training. Look at Joseph, for instance. He in Potiphar's house, he stored things up. He now knew how to save grains. He now knew how to keep things so that it can last for tomorrow. It's not a surprise anymore because he still showed the same characteristics in the prison, where he handled other prisoners so well that the jailer made him in charge of the prison. They made him presido in the prison. So it's not a surprise. I'm not surprised that he was able to handle the whole of Egypt because he has done it before on a smaller scale. And so if at any point in time you can look out for the good things that are happening in seemingly bad situations, you may just be able to spot the process in there. So I want you to understand that the process is not punishments. God often prepares the person before releasing the opportunity. Look at Moses, the same thing. Moses ran away from Egypt and spent 40 years taking care of sheep before going back. This is somebody that carries sheep from his father-in-law's house to the wilderness and back. He knows how to move with people. He knows how to move with a large number of living things. And so it's not a mistake that he was able to navigate Israelites all the way from Egypt through the Red Sea back to the Promised Land. It's not a mistake. He has been trained on how to do that for 40 years. The next point is, we live in a generation that hates sequence. And this is where you are called to stand out. You cannot be pursuing quick gratification. People reach out to me and they tell me, see, Chuks, I need to learn a particular skill. They give me some options. I want to learn this, I want to learn that, I want to learn this. I say, good, look at these 3 skills now. Which one are you interested in? They pick. I say, in these 3 skills, I know you're interested in this one, but which one is harder to learn? They pick that one. I say, if it was me, I'm going to go for the hardest one to learn. You know why? Because your competition will always be low. People don't go for hard things. Why? Because we are in a generation that doesn't like process. As a young man, you find yourself in a situation, you're talking with a young lady, she's not really answering you the way you want her to answer you. And you know clearly that she's answering you because of the stage of life you are in. 6 months down the line, you are out of that phase. You are now in a better place. And then the same lady is now looking at you in a way that's suggesting that she's interested in you. My brother, run. Run. Because now you have gone from your wilderness phase to the throne. And even if you're not on the throne, you're probably close to the palace. And then they are back. There's nothing that is going to keep that person there. If you go through another phase of trial, the person is going to step away again. Simple. These days, people like visibility without stability. They like money without any form of stewardship. They also like getting married. without healing. People want to use people to move on. And so even you're in a relationship with somebody and any small thing, you're already contacting people that you know that normally you won't contact just because you argued with your partner. You don't like this sequence. There was someone who said, and this person is a relationship expert, so I'm just going to repeat because I think it's true. Person said, she said, I can't remember her name. She said, couples are better off constantly arguing than being quiet. Like, if you should choose a marriage, you're given two options, and these are the two options. A marriage with somebody who you guys no longer talk about issues that are arising or anything like that, right? You guys just let it be. Let the sleeping dogs lie. Or a marriage where this person complains about everything you do wrong. And because of that, you guys argue a lot. The relationship expert was saying it is better to be in the second one because it is a process. Two random people. You don't know yourself. I was brought up in a different place. You were brought up in a different place. What makes you think that you just unite like that and all will be well without any form of friction and all of that? It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. A very good example of this is welding. In case you don't know how welding works, I'm just going to explain arc welding for you. Arc welding. Now, arc welding, the way it works, I want to attach this metal to this metal, right? So I connect the metal that I want to attach to a high source of electricity, very high. Means if I touch it with my bare hand, most likely go from there. A very high source of electricity, and then the other one is connected here to the arc, what holds the electrode, right? Arc welding, for instance, is that there's always a gap in between. You keep tapping on the gap in between, right? And as you're tapping on the gap in between, it's sparking. That spark generates heat. And so the diode, the electrode, let's just call it electrode, it starts melting because of the heat. And it's touching those two metals. And that heat is uncomfortable. If that was a human being there, it's uncomfortable. But that heat that is making that stuff to melt is what keeps that metal together. And so the process may not be comfortable. You want to get married to somebody, the process of building a sustainable marriage with that person most likely may not be comfortable. But it's that process of knowing that this person is like this, understanding how to live with the person, that is what builds the bond. It's not the ice cream and the pizza and the date nights that builds that bond. Sometimes in a marriage, it is knowing that no matter how mad this guy is going to get, he's not going to wake up in the night and strangle me to death. It is knowing that no matter how mad my wife is, she's not going to poison me. And that's why some couples, they fight crazy. People are afraid. Two of you cannot sleep inside your house this night. You go and sleep with this neighbor. You go and sleep in this neighbor's house. But yet, they sleep in that house that night. In the middle of the night, you hear them laughing. Why are they laughing? Because they know that, well, if it's that argument, we'll go argue, but nothing's going to come out in a way that anybody's losing their lives here. Now, let's talk about the power of timing. All right. I hope you're getting this. All right. Let's talk about the power of timing. And to talk about the power of timing, let's use Jesus as a case study. Jesus, the Son of God, if you understand that Jesus himself was also God. Now, he came to earth year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and he did not start his ministry until year 30. That's crazy. Because he still needed to follow the process of being a human being. He needed to follow the process, that human beings follow. Growing up, living with his parents. These days I see a lot of people, once they come out from school, they don't want to go back to their family house. Till they will stay there bouncing around until NYSC. And then, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if your only motive is because you don't want anybody telling you what to do, I don't think that's a good enough reason to start life on one leg. You get? That's just my own opinion. That's just my own opinion. So Jesus, although he tried to talk in the temple at 12 years old, after that, we didn't hear about him again until age 30. And because he had spent, the Bible says that Jesus grew. He grew in wisdom. He's the Son of God, though, they are talking about. He grew in wisdom. And so, in as much as he was the Son of God, he still had to follow process. And that's why 3 years was enough for him to do all he needed to do, and go. Because he had taken a long time in the process. He had prepared enough. He knew exactly what he needed to do. And move. Let's look at. Should I say this? No, let me not say it. It's maybe seen in a different way. But let's just say that what Jesus came to do was a business. Who starts a business? By employing staff. So you want to start a pure water company, and your step 1 is to employ staff without getting a place for the business, getting equipment. Your first step is to employ staff. That's exactly what Jesus did. Step 1, get disciples. Because he already knew exactly what he wanted to do. So don't jump the process. Don't ignore the sequence. All right? And now, I'll touch this a bit. I don't want to go too deep into it. But here are some signs that is going to let you know that you're kind of out of sequence. All right? Number 1 is that you're always under constant pressure. Guys, give me a moment. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Number one is that you're always under pressure. Everything people say, everything people do, it pressurizes you. That may be a sign that hmm, maybe you don't know where you're going. That's why you're worried like that. Number two is that there's always emotional instability around you. Everything people say, it gets to you. It's always making you sad. It's always, it's like somebody who has never spent a day without money, going broke. Sadness, depression hits you once because you don't know that in life, even even if you are a billionaire, life is not always in the highest points throughout, right? Someone like Dangote can come out and say, I'm broke. And him being broke is still some of us riches, right? It's still some of us riches. But what I'm trying to say is that life is not always on the ascending path. Sometimes it comes down, sometimes it goes up. It's just like that. It's a wave pattern. And so if everything that is happening around you is always depressing you, that may be a sign, right? Number three is that there's success you cannot sustain, right? You're seeing yourself and things are happening, you have money, or you just have money, but you know that this money at this rate, I may not be able to sustain this. It could be that you got it at the wrong time. It could be that you have not been through the process of knowing how to be financially wise, for instance. This is just an example. Another thing is sometimes when you see that doors are opening very fast for you and you know that your character it never reach. Like your character is not really working. So for instance, imagine you find yourself in a position where you have to work with women a lot. But you know that even if a woman is wearing tracksuit, whenever you see them, you know, you're still hyperactive by just the imagination of what she may look like. Don't wait till you crash. Don't wait till you fall before you start trying to work on it. Don't wait till you fall before you start trying to work on it. Don't wait. I'm not a medical practitioner, but I can tell you, you're not going to learn everything in about medicine. Even if you're a surgeon, you're not learn everything about surgery from medical school. There are some surgeons that if they want to do surgery today, particular surgery, maybe they have never done it before, or they have just been witnesses to the surgery in the past, they have to go and study weeks before that surgery takes place. That's the good thing. You can actually study to show yourself approved. You can actually go in search of knowledge. You can actually build yourself, even if you've already found yourself in a position of leadership, even if you've already found yourself in a position where it's seemingly difficult to pull back and say, oh, I don't want this again, or I think I've gotten here too fast and I've not been built properly. You can actually still do that, right? So as usual, these are some questions you need to ask yourself. Number one, am I prepared for what I'm praying for? This has happened to me in the past where I think I was praying for something. And one day as I was just praying, I don't know if this thing happens to everybody, but it happens to me. Sometimes I'm praying and then in my prayer, I wander into thoughts. Like I switch into thoughts. Like I should be praying, but now I'm just thinking. And I was thinking like, if God, as you're praying this prayer now, if God answers you now, can you handle it? And then when I thought to myself, and I said, I don't think I can handle it. So I now had to think to myself, what do you need to do in order to be able to handle what you are praying for? And that's what I started doing. All right. Next question you need to ask yourself is, do I want the thing or the process? Do I want the thing or the process? What does that mean? It means that if you're looking for money, do you just want the money, or do you want to understand the process of making money? Do you just want to get married, or do you want to understand the process of being married? Do you just want to have the children, or do you want to understand the process of having kids and raising them? Then the last question you need to ask yourself is, can my current character sustain my future desire? Some of you, you know. There are examples I want to give. These are not examples from strangers. These are examples of people I talk with. But I mean, I don't want to go that way. But some of you, you know that you even say it jokingly. If I have money now, first of all, I will first demolish the whole of you're already you're already planning on how wicked you're going to be. Like you have already planned it. Anything that makes me to have $3 billion right now or more, I'll just buy the whole of. You're already thinking of how wicked you're going to be. So you know why God has not thought of giving you that kind of money. Because you're complaining about politicians, but you know that with all due respect, these politicians are learning work where you are. You know. So you have to ask yourself, can my current character sustain my future desires? All right. And of course, I'm going to end with this. The last part we need to consider is the beauty of divine order. When you allow God to plan your life for you, the Bible says, the plans God has for us is for good and not of evil, to bring us to an expected end. The Bible also says the eyes of the Lord run to and fro the entire world, looking for opportunities for us. So if you understand that what God wants to do for you is for good, to bring you to an expected end, and if you understand that even as you are, God is looking for opportunities for you, come on, let's talk about divine timing. Because if you understand that nothing is random, even the things that seem random are not random. There are things that have happened in my life recently, and I'm looking at it and like, if I was not here at this time, I don't think I would have met this set of people. And if I didn't meet this kind of people, like some days ago, I had to thank God for not allowing me to. There was something in particular I was trying to do in the past, but I had to thank God recently that did not work. Because if it had worked back then, I would have used the wrong route, which would have made my journey longer. I'm a software engineer today because I heard two people talking. That was how I became a software engineer. I heard two people talking. And as they were talking, I was like, hey. They were not talking to me. I just overheard them talking. And that's how I became a software engineer today. That's the beginning of that journey. And so you need to understand that God is not slow. He's actually strategic. What may look like delay to you is actually God preparing you or saving you from something that is going to swallow you. When you follow sequence, you are protecting purpose. When you follow sequence, it protects you. It protects the people around you. When you follow sequence, it protects your destiny. When you follow sequence, it protects stability. There's a reason why before, when somebody comes out of medical school, you still have to go and do your housemanship, work in a hospital, for you to understand the feel, to go through the phase of understanding what it's like to be in the hospital. That's the whole point of industrial training, IT. So that when you finally get that your dream job, you're not new. You're not shocked by office politics. You're not shocked by the fact that not everything that comes to your mind in an office place is what you have to say. You're not shocked by all those things. And obviously, the right thing at the wrong time can still become the wrong thing if it happens outside of the right timing. Remember, the topic is sequence. If I was to rename this topic, I'll rename it process. Of course, good things, bad time. It's also very important that I mention, because it just came to my spirit now. Bad time is not necessarily time like the stage of your life you are in and all of that. It's not necessarily time. It could also be because you are not prepared. It could also be because you are not prepared, and that becomes a bad time. It came to you at a bad time. It's like buying a power bike for somebody who doesn't understand what it's like to ride a bicycle. Getting the power bike is not bad, but if that person doesn't understand the principle of balance on two wheels, it's always going to be a problem. If that person does not understand the principle of balancing on two wheels, it will be a problem. Because everybody knows that when you're riding, and not everybody knows, but riding a bicycle, it's you that is on the bicycle becomes the source of balance. And so if bicycle that is not even a fast moving means of transportation, you are having issues with it, then you are on a power bike, you will just kill yourself. All right. Some doors are not closed, not because God said no, but because you are still being built. Number two, do not make mistake. Do not make mistake in thinking that preparation is punishment. It's not. Another thing I would like to highlight is do not rush what sequence is trying to protect. If you see that your life is following a particular sequence and this is like a growing phase for you, don't rush to the reward. Don't rush to the reward. Don't rush. That place you're trying to get to, you will still get there. But if you get there unprepared, you might go back to where you are coming from. And of course, when the timing is right, good things stop becoming burdens. They start becoming blessings. Thank you so much for joining this podcast today. I'm very honored to have you guys with me. From the depth of my heart, I say thank you. Remember, the topic is sequence, good things, bad time. My name is Dozie, and every Sunday by 8 p.m., I am on this place. You always find me here by Sunday, on a Sunday by 8 p.m. All right, you always find me here. Woo! Only God knows what the topic for next Sunday is going to be, but I hope the topic today was impactful to you. And I want to wish you a good night rest as you start this week. May you start it with direction, and may God give you the grace to stick to sequence in Jesus' name. Amen. Good night, guys. Good night.